My philosophy as a professional within my profession is very similar to what I've carried throughout my life. Integrity is the number one thing for me. I will also include equity, positive mental attitude, and work ethic, customer service, as well as being myself. I will cover a lot of these things, but as I sit here and I think back throughout my life and how I got to where I am, I've learned a lot of lessons that I can build off of to help me also get to where I'm going. I've received so much feedback throughout my career that I've evaluated and tried to use it to my advantage. During my time in the Marine Corps and even before that, one of the things that was preached to me was integrity. Now, I will say that it was preached a lot harder during my time in the Marines. The Marine Corps wanted me to be honest and have a strong moral foundation. They wanted you to give credit to your subordinates when they did something great, and they wanted you to take ownership if you or they did something not so great. Integrity served me well. Very rarely in my career did someone chastise me or punish me because I made a mistake. And that was because I owned the mistake and learned from it. And that is that is why that is something that will stay with me first and foremost for the rest of my career. The next thing is equity. Something I've learned quickly as an HR manager is that everyone has a motive. Department managers, supervisors, support staff, hourly employees, and really everyone you encounter inside or outside of your organization has a goal that they have to meet. And they all want to reach that goal in the best way that they know how. Sometimes that means there will be conflicting interests and points of view. It's important that as an HR manager or a professional in any capacity, I keep a level head and make decisions that are equitable and accurate with as much information as I can get. A great example I get from time to time is a department manager that wants to terminate an employee because they don't like that employee too well. I often ask the questions: would you treat your favorite employee like this? Or why are you pushing so hard to terminate this employee? What you'll often find that is even though an employee may have a squeaky clean record, there were minor things along the way that the manager failed to address and correct with the employee. And the easiest thing to do is to get rid of them and look for someone that they think will take less work to develop. That's not equitable. The last one I'll talk about is a positive mental attitude. It goes along really well with customer service. I've often been accused by people of smiling a lot. It's true. I do. I walk around our manufacturing floor every day with a smile on my face. I wave to or stop and talk with everyone that I cross paths with. People ask me how I'm always in a good mood, and I just tell them, hey, it's a great day to be alive. I could be in much worse places right now, and I'm blessed to be here today. People love that. They buy into it. It lifts their spirits as well. It also lets people know that I'm open to conversation. People feel comfortable coming to talk to me when they know that I have a great mindset about life. This helps tremendously in the HR world. To add on to that, when I do have people that are willing to come to me, I have an opportunity to make their lives a little better by providing great customer service. Maybe I can help them solve a problem that they're having at home or work. Maybe I can help them get on the right track to develop and grow into the goals that they're trying to reach. Whatever it may be, I have a great opportunity to provide a great customer service and change someone's life. As far as goals go, for my time in graduate school, going into it, there were some very specific goals, um, and I think I've maybe added a few along the way. My goals would be to learn to think in a different way, continue to master the skills that I currently have while gaining new skills, and to understand some of the science behind why we do a lot of the things we do in HR and what drives people to perform at the highest levels. So I'll start with the first goal, which is to think in a different way. I think through life we are influenced by how we think, and I'll mention the Marine Corps again. This was a group that really thought differently about a lot of things. They had different views about work, society, politics, education, and so on. It was eye opening. Then I got into the world of automotive manufacturing and was introduced to Lean Six Sigma. And again, we were taught to think differently and to stop accepting the status quo on everything. I want to continue that process and learn to think differently again. I think by continuing to engage with other graduate students and educators on a variety of topics and reading different viewpoints on these topics throughout school, I will find that new way to think that I've been looking for. The next goal was to continue to master the skills I currently have while gaining new skills. I often tell people that my bachelor's degree was fine. It was a good foundation for a career in HR, but nothing can prepare you for HR. You have to continue to educate yourself daily, stay up to date on the law, politics, what's happening in the media, and the list goes on, because the reality is all of these things can impact what you might encounter on any given day at work. My goal is to continue to improve upon that knowledge I've already gained through the education that EKU is offering me. I also look forward to the classes I'm going to take that will help me gain new skills and knowledge. Finally, to go along with my last goal, I just want to understand the science behind what makes people tick at work. There are so many opinions of what motivates people. This past week alone, we learned that the tasks that require cognitive ability and really required people to think through what they were doing, um, that money was not the motivator. But the money could motivate people that were required to do very routine tasks and take a straight line to their output. We talked about intrinsic versus extrinsic motivations. These are the things that we were talking about in just my first couple of months of this master program. And that's exciting to me. I'm excited to really understand the science of why people do what they do at work and how to really help improve an organization and approach it from a completely different angle than what the organizations are used to. Um, Going back, I'm sorry, I think I can tie all this together and set SMART goals to achieve the things I just discussed. I've already laid out all the three big specific goals I want to reach, and I do believe each of them are attainable and relevant. This can be measured in two separate ways, one of those being the grades on each lesson. I would hope that each grade and each lesson is indicative of my comprehension of the subject matter, but it can also be measured in how will I apply it to the workforce. If I could take this information back to my profession and accurately apply it for positive, measurable results, then I think that would be a great measure of whether I reached any of these goals. I think the timely piece is challenging. Again, I believe through some of the grades I receive, that would make the measurement of these goals timely, but it may take some time to ensure that I can comfortably say I've reached the goals that I've wanted to achieve in this program. There are interpersonal skills that I believe will be important for me as a professional in whatever field I decide to go in going forward. But I believe there are steps I can take during graduate school to enhance these skills. As I've said numerous times, I'm an HR manager at a large manufacturing plant. I've worked at multiple manufacturing plants in a couple of different industries over the past 10 years. The three interpersonal skills that our book covers are social skills, empathy, and relationship development. Social skills and relationship development have been the two that have got me through every phase of my career. And I think empathy is something I've really had to learn over time. I used to have a manager that would tell me that I had the gift of gab, and I wasn't always sure what that meant. And then it clicked one day. I had the ability to socialize with people at every level of the organization, regardless of their backgrounds. I could really connect with them and build a relationship with them that allowed me to trust them. And it also allowed them to trust me. Empathy, on the other hand, especially during my time in the Marines and in auto manufacturing, was hard for me to understand. I was always raised to believe that you should go to work, never be late, never leave early, and never miss a day. And there was no reason to do so. The problem with that is that people do have real life problems. And it took me until I was past probably 30 years old to realize that. I went to work at a manufacturing plant in a community that was very rural. A lot of drugs and crime in the community, not a ton of money there, and I got to see firsthand what real problems look like. I had to learn to empathize with that. If I had just given attendance points to everyone that, um, had to miss work or, um, um, had to fire everyone who needed to take time off to go back to their native country or something like that for an extended period of time, I wouldn't have very many employees and we wouldn't be an employer of choice. I felt like I was always a good listener. That's never been the problem. The problem for me has been connecting to someone emotionally and not holding judgment based off of my own predetermined ideas of that person and the issues that they're dealing with. Um, I believe through graduate school, I can use this opportunity uh, as I engage with people around the world in these classes and seek new perspectives and experiences that may help me understand how others may live. I can also acknowledge the biases that I have formed throughout my life from just a tiny perspective. I understand that even though I've made attempts at this, many of my biases may be completely unconscious. And so when I can figure out exactly what those are, I can address that issue. So moving on to talk about the program student learning objectives, or the PSLOs, I'm just going to go down the list and address my readiness, my readiness regarding previous exposure to each topic in my coursework, as well as any professional experiences around them. I'll also discuss any goals I can make around each one of these during my time in graduate school and beyond that may help me develop in each area. The first one is around knowledge and skills of research designs, methodologies, and statistical techniques, and the application in a variety of settings. I really don't have a ton of experience with this in school that I can remember. Now, as we go through this, we need to remember it's been about 10 years since I graduated college, and I'm in class number 1 into this program. But I just cannot recall a ton of experience around that area. I do think throughout the program I'll have an opportunity to experience this much more. Now, I've dealt with it a little bit at work. I'll use one example um, of correlation research where we've attempted to take different variables and see if there's a correlation that will help us be more predictive in our hiring practices. But really, that's my main experience there. Um, Back to the slide I accidentally went to. The next PSLO is around theory, research, and application of industrial psychology topics. And as we learned in chapter 1, the industrial side focuses on the policies and procedures, things such as recruitment, management, and job classification. After this class, I feel more comfortable with the concepts around the theory and research, and I'm connecting some of the dots of things that I've done in my professional experience and why I did them in the past of these things. And I've written a variety of procedures around how our organization handles different things, such as dress code, code of conduct, internal HR policies, and so on. So the next PSLO is theory, history, and applications of the organizational side of psychology, IO psychology. And again, we learned in chapter 1 that the organizational side dealt with org development, change management. That's why I have the ad card picture on here, employee experience, and things like that. And I look back at the engagement survey we did with a consultant, and the big focus was on Maslow's hierarchy of needs and intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. And I remember doing that and thinking, hey, this is neat. This should help, and really not knowing what questions to ask, just that I needed to follow the consultant's instructions. But after one of our recent lessons, I'm understanding much more of the why about it. The final PSLO is around the skills necessary to function as a professional in a diverse situation. And this is an area I can set some goals in. I think, through this class, as well as my experience in the workforce, there are some great opportunities to continue to grow and develop. I've worked with consultants before at my current job, as I stated before. I would really love to focus on my project management skill ability as well, as that is an area that I find at work I struggle with a bit. Take a small project that we're working on right now around security, and there's so many distinct aspects to it that I sometimes find myself really struggling with the next move. I expect through these classes that I will be able to come out more prepared for something like this. Um, Overall, I believe that I'm more mature now than I was when I graduated with my bachelor's. I'm more experienced in my profession, and even though my family life keeps me busy, I have a great support system around me now. And if I just dial in and focus on each class and engage in every conversation with the intent to share knowledge, but take as much out of it as possible as well, then I will be well prepared to go through the graduate school and achieve my goals.